Momic, this would be your cue to go ahead and record. So there we go. Welcome, Lee McCroskey here, Nashville, Tennessee. Excited to talk to you today in our continuing saga this is about financial strategies for young career professionals. Financial strategies for young career professionals like you. All right, I think I might have 8, but we may only get to 5 because of time. I know you've got other things to do, but this is taken, I have advertised the fact that I am not a financial guy. I have someone that manages our money for us. So I am borrowing information and knowledge and wisdom from different sources. This is from an article from Investopedia.com. So I will source that. Let me tell you first that personal finance here in the United States has not yet become a required subject at high school or university. Did you have to take personal finance courses when you were going through school? Yes? A couple of you? Good. Good for you. Well, here a number of people in their 20s and 30s are fairly clueless about how to manage their money, especially when they're out of school and in their workforce like you guys are. So to help you get started, I'm going to share some strategies for you. Number 1, and some of these are repetitive from last week. You're like, why are they repetitive? Because A, you don't remember them from week to week, and B, a lot of people don't practice these strategies. So I'll continue to repeat them. Maybe at the next semi-annual meeting, I may have Eustace or somebody teach financial management. I think that's a great idea. Someone should write down. More on that later. All right, point number 1, learn self-control. Learn self-control. Now, here's what I mean. If you're lucky, your parents may have taught you this skill when you were a kid. If not, keep in mind that the sooner you learn the fine art of this phrase, remember these words, delayed gratification. Write that down. Point number 1 is really delaying gratification. As soon as you learn that, you'll find it easy to keep your finances in order. And it's pretty effortless if you've got credit cards to purchase something on credit. Just the second you want it, to go online, order it. It's there in a few days. But if you make a habit of putting all your purchases on credit cards, regardless of whether or not you pay your bill in full at the end of the month, you might still be paying for a pair of jeans for like 5 years. So you don't want to do that and deal with interest. You can use them as a convenience factor, or maybe for the points you might get or rewards that they offer you, but make sure, this is huge, you pay the balance in full when the bill comes. Pay your credit cards in full. Now, if you're like, oh my gosh, I've got 3 or 4 credit cards, I'm already paying the minimum on those, go back to previous recordings to talk about how to get rid of your debt. So we're not going to talk about that today. We've already talked about it. So go back and listen to those recordings. All right, point 2, take control of your own financial future. Take control of your own financial future. What does that mean? If you don't learn to manage your own money, other people will find ways to manage it for you or mismanage it for you. Some of them, are financial planners that are slightly unscrupulous. They're commission-based, and so every time you make some kind of transaction, they make a commission. And so I'm not against commission, but you need to find a fee-based financial planner. More on that in a minute. Other people that you know well may be good-intentioned, but they don't know what they're talking about, like Aunt Gilda, who really wants you to buy a house, even though you can only afford to rent a small flat. Some of you have people who are giving you financial advice that maybe you shouldn't listen to. So here's the deal. This is the notion of number 2. Instead of relying on other people for advice, take charge and read a few basic books on personal finance. So all of you are good about doing your gratitude list, and when I talk to some of you on the phone, you're like, yeah, I'm reading books. Well, read a financial book. You're like, well, I'm not interested in finances. It makes me sleepy. Good. Read them at night so you'll sleep better. But here is a book, if you have insomnia, but here's a book I recommended before that you should get. Eustace endorses this. It's by Dave Ramsey. It's called The Total Money Makeover. The Total Money Makeover. Just sit down and read it. It's very simple. Once you've armed yourself with personal finance knowledge, no one will catch you off guard. Okay? And that could be someone like your partner slowly siphoning your bank account, or friends who want to go out every weekend and blow tons of money. Woo! This will help you if you read that book. So look it up, Amazon, The Total Money Makeover. That's one I'd recommend. There are others out there. Okay, point number 3. Know where your money goes. Know where your money goes. Here's another word that could be inserted for number 3. Talked about it before. Create a budget. All right, so once you've read a personal finance book or two, you'll realize how important it is to make sure your expenses are not exceeding your income. So the best way to do that is by budgeting. And once you see how that morning Java that you buy, you know, or I know all these people that they have to have their Starbucks every morning. But once you see how that adds up over the course of a month, you'll realize that making small, manageable little changes in your everyday expenses, they can just have a huge impact on your financial situation. It can be as big as almost giving yourself a raise. I know a guy I used to work with named Grant Greeter, and he always ordered water at meals. And we're like, Grant, you're a director of sales. Why are you can afford to get a Coke? He's like, nope, I'm ordering water. I don't want to waste my money. Because he had calculated just hundreds, if not thousands of dollars that he saw his people in his organization wasting because they were just doing those little tiny expenses, and they add up over time. He owns a couple businesses now, just FYI. So budget is a good idea. What else? Oh, here's something else on your budget. If you don't waste your money on a really posh apartment now, you might be able to afford a really nice condo or a house before you know it. Don't try to keep up with people. You know, there's always this sort of underlying competition between people. They're like, oh man, she's got some really cool stuff, really nice things, really cool car. Wow, look at the place. And the fact is, she can't afford it. She's living on credit. So I would be wary of looking at people who you think are above you on the chain of command or in management or a little bit older and trying to emulate their spending example. You know, you might say, well, I need to fake it till I make it. I would live below my means. That should be a major point right there. Live below your means, you know. Okay, that's a different talk. We'll try to get to it. All right, point 4. Point 4. This sounds familiar. Start an emergency fund. Write that down. Start an emergency fund. You have maybe heard someone in the financial sector say, pay yourself first. Always pay yourself first. Well, no matter how much you owe in terms of like student loans or credit card debt, and some of you may not be making as much money on commissions yet because you're still learning the business, no matter how small that may be, your income, it is smart to find some amount, any amount of money, and take it from your budget and save it in an emergency fund every month. Okay? So that keeps you out of trouble financially. And, you know, I would treat that like an expense, like a monthly expense. Like, oh, yeah. Don't say, oh, well, this month things are a little bit tight, so I'm going to not contribute to my emergency fund. No, make it non-negotiable, a monthly expense. And pretty soon you'll have more than just an emergency fund saved up. And you'll be doing, gosh, holiday money, retirement money, which we'll talk about in a second, or maybe a down payment on a flat or a condo. That's cool. I would also recommend that you, as you're saving for your emergency fund, you don't just take cash and stuff it in a mattress. or put it in a shoebox, right? You need to put it somewhere where it will make interest. So I would put it in a high interest online savings account or some kind of money market account, right? Good idea. Does anybody have those yet? Have you put some money away for retirement? Who's done that? Raise your hand. Those of you on video. Has anybody put, yes, put some money away for retirement? See, the deal is, here's the problem. Most of us don't think about retirement. It seems so far away. You're like, man, I don't want to be old. I probably won't get old. And I don't even want to, I've got plenty of time to worry about retirement. Not really. Which brings me to how to save for retirement. That's point number 5. Start saving for retirement now. Start saving for retirement now. So remember, just when your parents sent you off to kindergarten and they were kind of hoping to prepare you for being successful in the world, it seemed like eons away when you were all grown up. In the same way, you need to prepare for your retirement way ahead of time. And why is this? Because if you invest it, that's how compound interest works. If you're unfamiliar with, like I was as an English major, compound interest, the sooner you start saving, the less principal or money you'll have to invest to end up with the amount you want to retire with. All right? You're like, well, what does that work? How can I double my money? What I want to do is I want to show you a short video. I'm going to share it with you on the screen. Yes, something different. And it's about the rule of 72. Who's heard about the rule of 72? Anyone? Okay. It's a simple way to figure out how you can double your money if you put it somewhere with an interest rate. So let's look at this little YouTube video. I'll pull it up, do my share the screen thing. And hold on one second. We'll get it going here. Beep. And let me do this. Beep. And let me do this. Beep. I'm making sound effects to help. And I'll share. And I'll do this. Ding. Okay. Here we go. Let's watch. It's a short video, and then we'll talk about your sheet.
So you've got a chunk of change, and you're smart enough. So you put your money into an account that gains compound interest. So how long does it take for your money to double in that account? Well, to find this out, you need 2 things, your balance and your interest rate. Now, like most things, there's an easy way to find your answer and a hard way. The hard way involves taking the logarithm base 10 of 2, 2 as in 2 times our balance, over the logarithm base 10 of 1 plus our interest rate. Since most of us don't have bionic brains, we can't really do this math in our heads. But our friend Larry is here, and he's going to give it his best shot. We'll get back to him later. Luckily, there's a simple way to approximate how long it takes for your money to double in a compound interest account. It's called the rule of 72. How does it work? It's surprisingly simple. All you do is take the number 72 and divide it by your interest rate. That's it. It's that easy. The number you get equals the number of years it's going to take to double your money. So let's try it out. Say you have $5,000 in your account earning 4% interest. Now take that magical number 72, take your interest rate of 4%, pull out your phone, text your 2nd grade cousin and ask him how many times 4 goes into 72. He's a bright kid, so he'll tell you the answer is 18. And you'll tell him that he just helped you learn that it will take 18 years for your initial $5,000 to double into $10,000. Let's check in on Larry. That's very nice, Larry. Luckily, with the rule of 72, there's no need to ever use the hard way. Using the rule of 72, we can easily see how small changes in interest rate can make a huge difference in our earning potential. A 29-year-old earning 4% compounding interest can expect his account to double twice by the time he's 65. At 8%, it doubles 4 times. At 12%, it doubles 8 times. So by doubling your interest rate from 4% to 8%, you actually quadruple your money. And by tripling your rate from 4% to 12%, you 16-tuple your money. Is that a word? It is now. Interest rates matter. The rule of 72 helps us understand just how much they matter. So how many doubling periods does your nest egg have before you retire? Now you know the easy way to find out. For this educational video and others like it, go to alliancegroup.academy.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. So that gives you just a rough idea about interest rates and how long it takes for money that you put away, you don't touch it, how long it will take to double, okay? So let's look at the little sheet of paper next that you pulled out. If you've got it near, if sit by somebody that has that. I need to explain a couple things about this because I showed this to Chenda and his team last night, and he had some thoughts. He agreed with it entirely, and he said that he follows these notions that we're talking about saving money, putting it away, letting your money work for you. All right. So let's look at these two savers. We've got two columns. Now, saver A, here we're going to look at his situation. Let's say these two guys are friends. Well, the first guy spends his money partying for 8 years. Then he opens an account earning 12%, which may be a little optimistic, but let's say it earns 12%. He starts at age 26. You can see that on the chart below. And he puts in $150 a month, which is $1,800 a year. That's where we get the number 1,800. And he does that for 40 years, which is pretty commendable. He puts away $1,800 from age 26 all the way till 65, which is not the magical number to retire. Some people retire later, some people retire earlier. It's up to your financial situation and what your life plan is. But here's what he does. Saver A, you can see that see where it says contributions near the top? He has contributed $72,000 from the time he was 26 years old up till he retired. All right? And you're like, okay, well, that's pretty good. But he started when he was 26. Now look at Saver B. This is a guy, two friends, but this guy didn't wait. He started earlier. He started somehow, he saved some money up, maybe with his summer jobs or whatever, but he saved the same amount, $150 a month. He did it for 8 years in an account earning 12%. And then when he reached 26, he stopped investing. So he put in $1,800 a year from the ages 18 through 25. At age 26, he stopped doing it. And he just let that money sit in that account and earn interest. And like the rule of 72, it's going to double, 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 right? So look at the bottom. You can see that Saver B, even though he stopped putting in money because he invested it early, kind of like some of you guys, still young, still have a chance to get in on this compound interest thing early. He did it early. He didn't have to pay as much in, but look at the bottom. He saved $2,232,000 based on those variables. And his friend, he did okay saving, but he did it later, starting at 26. He only made $1,700,000. So Saver B outpaced person A by almost $500,000 in this example. You see how that works? Isn't that cool? That should give you encouragement that A, if I can get out of debt, start an emergency fund, and then start putting money away early, as early as possible. Some of you are like all discouraged. You're like, I'm not 18 anymore. I can't do this. It's okay. Getting in at any time is a great idea. Even if you're already 26, do it. It's better than most people who don't save much at all. They just rack up bigger and bigger debts. So the point of this, and there's a couple caveats here I need to tell you about, is the rate of return. You may not get a 12% annual rate of return. That may be a little aggressive. That's kind of what Chenda pointed out. He thought that interest rate was a little high. The annual rate of return here in the States for the S&P 500, I won't explain what all that means, but the annual rate of return over the last 90 years has been about 10%, okay? So even if you adjust these numbers by a little bit, it's still going to pay out really well. Chenda also said what you should be doing, he said he thought that 1,800 was small. He said you should be targeting 30% of your income to save up. So if you take whatever you're making on a monthly basis, you try to target 30%, and that's what you're going to sock away and save. He thought these numbers would be a lot, it might be $3,000 or $4,000, but it all depends on your situation. Okay. The main point here is that you start early and you put it somewhere where you won't touch it. Does that make sense? You're not going to be dipping into it. You're like, oh gosh, I really would like a new car and I've saved up this money, so I'm going to go ahead and take a loan for myself and dip into my investment account. No, you don't want to do that because it just eliminates all that principal that's in there making interest for you. All right. So one of my main points here today is I want you to remember this. I want you to pay the price now and work hard and invest and make a habit, a discipline of putting it away. So pay the price now, enjoy the price later. Okay? Pay the price now so you can enjoy the price that you paid later on. Most people aren't willing to do that. They're like, nope, got to have it now. All right, let me hit 3 more mega quick points after number 5. Number 5 is my big one for today. Number 6 is get a grip on your taxes. Get a grip on your taxes. Get someone you trust to help you with your taxes if you file your own taxes. I did so when I was 20. I had somebody that was older that I trusted that had done tax forms before. The ones here in the U.S. are very complex, so I try to get people to help me. Point 7 is to guard your health. Guard your health. And what that means is get some health insurance if you don't have it. What you have to do, if you have to go to the emergency room, if you have break your arm or you slip on the ice and break a bone, it can cost tons of money if you have no health insurance. So apply for that. Get online, get some quotes from different insurance providers to get the lowest rates. Talk to some of the older guys or women in your office to get ideas about that, but make sure that you have some. You just gotta be able to pay for that, because especially if you live anywhere near the U.S., it's going to cost a lot for health insurance. All right. Number 8, finally, guard your wealth. Guard your wealth. If you want to make sure that you're working hard and you don't want your money to vanish, you need to take steps to protect it. So if you're a renter, if you rent a flat or condo, get renter's insurance to protect the contents of what's in your place. If there's a fire or a burglary, and you're always like, well, that won't happen to me. I know, sure. But renter's insurance is a good idea. There's also a thing called disability income insurance, and that protects your ability to earn an income by providing you with some kind of an income if you ever are unable to work. All right? So I would again recommend that if you have questions about financial planning, find someone in your office or in your team that knows what they're talking about. Find a fee-only financial planner to help you with that. So the deal is this: you don't need lots of fancy business degrees or a special background in accountancy to become an expert at managing your finances. You can do this. Go make sure you get the Total Money Makeover. Read it, live by it. You'll be happy, healthy, and wealthy later on. All right? So let me close. We close with a big quote often, and it's this. It's probably not a famous quote. It's by Charles Jaffe, but I liked it. He said, it's not your salary that makes you rich, it's your spending habits. It's not your salary that makes you rich, it's your spending habits. All of this comes down to discipline. Money management is about discipline. Okay? So there you go. There's some thoughts for you today. I want you to continue thinking about. Start saving for retirement. Make sure you get an emergency fund going. Know where your money goes. Create a budget. Get self-control, meaning go buy the Total Money Makeover or a good finance book. All right. Any comments from the crew out there? I know some of you do a great job with your money. You've got some investments. You've cleared out your debt. Or maybe you have a strategy that I didn't cover today, which is normal.
I have a question.
Yes. Is it Charles?
2 questions. So do I just go to my local bank and then ask about putting an investment fund? Is that the first step?
You could do that if you've if you have an emergency fund or you want to put some money away where it's going to build interest, you could go to a banker. Banks, they'll have things called certificate of deposits. You could get into a money market fund, which is a good idea. We have things in the U.S. called IRAs, individual retirement accounts. There's a thing called a Roth IRA, which allows you to contribute to it on a monthly basis, and it grows, and you kind of leave it alone. So that would be a way to go if you didn't know anybody in the financial sector. But ask around in your office and see if anybody uses someone that they can recommend to you. Okay, but that's a good place to start. Just know that banks are going to typically give you a very low interest rate, like 2 or 3% if you put money in with them. They're not going to be real high, but they'll be safe and they'll be secure and they'll be conservative. So
right. So do you go to a guy? You have like someone you trust?
Yeah. Years ago, when I was in my 20s and I got married, my wife and I met. I'm not sure where we met him, but it was a guy named Jake Embry. He's with Merrill Lynch. And he was a young guy too, but we felt comfortable with him. And he asked us tons of questions and we gave him tons of information about our attitude toward money, and what financial planners do if they're good is they'll determine whether if you feel conservative with your money or more liberal with it, they'll invest it in different ways. If you're like really scared about losing it, then you might put it in very conservative accounts. If you're a little bit more freewheeling, you might say, well, no, let's go for it. I'm going to try to earn a high interest rate in these stocks or whatever. But there's also more risk. So there you go. Does that kind of make sense?
Right. So do you pay a fee up front or is it through interest rates over time?
We pay this guy an annual fee. So it's just a flat rate to handle our money. And he lets me know when he's moving stuff around or changing it. So when we got started, though, we didn't have enough to even worry about that much. So you don't want to be e-trading and shifting your money all in all these different accounts. You want to spread it out, but get some advice from somebody who has more knowledge. Okay. And here's what I did one year. I saved a lot of money from working at Southwestern and selling books. And I just said, hey, I want to be a high roller. I want to invest some thousands of dollars in speculative stocks. And my director said, okay, if you do that, if they were in gold and coal and silver, he said, just understand, if you're willing to lose all of it, then fine, you can go invest it that way. And I'm like, well, I can make big bucks. He goes, okay, just understand these are speculative. That's if they hit gold or silver in the mountains where they're mining this stuff, or they find a new coal, a line of coal, you'll do fine. So the end of the story is I lost everything. So it wasn't the end of the world. It was kind of my money I set aside for play money when I was 25 or whatever. But I learned a lesson that was that highly speculative gamble that you can take with high interest stuff sometimes doesn't pan out well. But I wasn't ready to say, okay, here, Mr. Banker, sock this away and help my little piece of money earn 2% for the next 100 years. That was a little too conservative for me. So you got to find what you're comfortable with. Okay, thank you. Good questions. Anybody else have a thought or strategy, or we're good? Okay. Well, thanks for tuning in. We may do another one of these next week. I don't know. It just depends. I may end up becoming a financial guru after running a series of these, and I'll know everything about finances. But my main goal is to make sure that you are not paying interest on debt. We want you to get out of debt. All right. So work hard now, save as much as you can, and you'll be very happy when you're old like me. Okay. Because you can see how happy I am. All right. Thanks for tuning in this week. Have a fantastic evening or morning or afternoon. We'll see you next time. Go save your money.